Hello, sweet friends, and welcome to this week's Light Warrior Session interview. Today, we are hearing from spiritual advisor and psychic medium Eleni Khan. Eleni has over 20 years of experience as an avid practitioner and student of the ancient healing arts, and she is a lifelong psychic medium. Her life path and mission is to assist individuals in connecting deeper to their true nature and manifesting their highest good through her combined services as a spiritual advisor, healer, psychic medium, and intuitive guide. In today's episode, we hear her story, when her gifts began and how they developed. She also demonstrates a reading later in the episode, so you get to see her process in real time. Skeptics and believers alike will find this interview quite interesting. Now let's dive in. All right, woohoo. Okay, I am here today with Eleni, the spiritual advisor, oracle, psychic medium, so many words to describe the amazing work you do. And first of all, just thank you so much for being willing to talk with me.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be a part of your Light Warrior healing sessions. It's amazing.
Oh, good. And now where are you right now? Where do you live?
So I'm on the East Coast in Maryland, currently temporarily residing in Frederick, Maryland, but we are in transition right now. We're waiting for our new home to be built, and we're moving to a place called Lake Linganore.
Oh, a new house. That's exciting.
Yes, something I never imagined I would do.
Oh,
We
really?
left like this tiny little cottage in a historical neighborhood that was about 100 years old, and we are
Oh,
leaving that whole cottage life and going into the whole new world of modern new build.
yeah. Well, I mean, cottage life sounds cute, but I also know you have quite a few kids, so they're probably outgrowing the cottage life.
Exactly. We've had a lot of these really sweet, cute little home vibes, like when we lived in a cabin in Flagstaff, and when we lived in like one of those cool adobe houses in Sedona. It's always been these amazing experiences, but then reality hit, and it's like, okay, time to
Right.
really settle in.
Yeah. Well, awesome. So I'm excited to talk to you. I feel like so many of us have so many questions when it comes to people with the kind of gifts that you have. Although I might say a lot of us have them, we have to develop them and believe in them. But what people don't realize about me, because I'm into so many fun, kind of out there things, but the start of all of those, I'm skeptical, like with everything. I'm skeptical and curious. Not so I try to like withhold judgment, but I'm very curious and is that real? And so I think when it comes to psychic abilities, I just interviewed someone about hypnotherapy and hypnosis. It's the same thing where we think of something we've seen on TV. You know what I
Right.
mean? And it's like, is this real? I don't know. And so my big skepticism about psychics was always someone's like in their ear telling them all about me. Like I have this picture from a movie, where someone's in a booth telling the guy on stage, row number 3, person in the middle with the purple shirt, their father died, like do them, you know what I mean? And so meeting you was the opposite of that. You had no clue who I was, and I had no clue who you were. So I couldn't have that type of skepticism. But okay, I have to talk about where we met.
One thing I had to
Yeah.
mention is that
Oh,
my
please.
guides, they never told me you were a skeptic. I didn't
Well,
know that. That's one thing I didn't psychically pick up on. I felt a huge, wide open heart space.
I do have an open heart. So,
Mhm.
but our minds have their own things going on
For
sometimes.
sure, for sure.
Yeah. Well, but also it was like 2 minutes into talking to you, there was no room for me to be skeptical. So there's nothing to pick up on. But yeah, so many years ago, we were just trying to figure that out. I'm thinking like 5 years ago, something like that, 6
I can't
maybe.
believe it's actually been that long. Yeah,
Was
that's
it?
correct.
Yeah. I went to
About five.
Sedona. Yeah.
Yeah.
Went to Sedona with two friends, and two of us had never been there. One had, and we had an amazing, amazing trip. It was so awesome. But one of the main things on this trip was finding you. So the girl who had been there before had the most mind-blowing reading from you. And her number one, she couldn't remember your name and she couldn't remember where she had the reading. So we spent, I'm going to say, like hours of our trip walking around trying to find you. And and she wouldn't like settle for anyone else. She had to talk to you because you just blew her mind and opened her heart and did all these amazing things. So we were going into shops and we finally found the place where you had formerly worked, and we got your name out of them. And of course they're like, we have other people, stay here. And she's like, no, sorry.
I love this.
Oh my God.
Man.
She was so determined. So anyway, we ended
Wow.
up finding you, calling you. And so, you told her, well, I'll come to your hotel and I'll give you a reading. And if your friends want one too, I can just do everybody. So Cassie and I were like, yeah, sure. Why not? We're in Sedona. Let's do all the things. And you walked in the room and obviously you're so beautiful. And you looked at all of us and you looked at me and you said, you have to be last. And I was like, okay.
I can't believe I said that.
Well, it was so fascinating. And you said your energy is really, really strong and it'll bleed into the other readings if I start with you. So yeah.
I remember that now. That is so true. If I got to do your aura photo, you would be a red. I'm telling you right now. I'm a red too.
Wow.
Like there's like this aura photo photography,
yeah,
scientific machinery we use there. And I just knew right off the bat, as soon as I walked in the room, I just knew that your energy was like the it factor. So I was like, I gotta save that for last.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So we took turns. Two of us would go sit by the pool while one person was in there with you. And it was just so beautiful. And Angelica had, another amazing reading and told us tidbits. And then Cassie had a reading and she came back really teary. And there was a lot with like her cat, which, I didn't even know, like cats have
Come
spirits.
up in reading. Yeah, they do.
And she was, oh my God, she was so connected to that. And then, you just blew me away. And the way our reading started, and you can talk more about this in a minute. I'll shut up soon. But I'm just
good. I love listening to you. It's so amazing.
Oh, so you'll show, if you want, you can talk about your process a little bit, but you started by just us not talking and just having a quiet moment, taking deep breaths and seeing what came to you and then making notes. And you just came right in with something very personal from my life that was a big part. And I'm not going to get into all my personal life, but I just knew immediately, like, oh, wow, she sees something that is not out there to be seen, so it started in this very bold way and just grew from there. And we've connected so many times since then. You've helped me so much through some really, really difficult things, and in this very special way that a lot of people can't. So thank you. And yeah,
I'm getting teary-eyed right now. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm not an actress, I swear. I don't know how to make myself cry on the spot. Oh my goodness. One thing I do remember was, besides all of like whatever heavy stuff you might be thinking back on that was like mind-blowing or whatever, one thing I remember that stood out to me the most was that I totally picked up on the fact that you are an artist. I was like, you sing. I'm like, do you sing? Are you involved in music and singing? And you're like, yeah, and no one told me anything about you. And I just could see it in your aura. Your aura was just so beautiful. And I'm like, wow. Okay. So I saw a lot of light around you and I knew that you had a very strong channel, and that your channel was not just in connecting with the public and helping and giving back and healing in all those amazing ways that you do. Not just that, but that you had a special gift and talent and working with people. And I just saw you reaching like masses of people through your voice. And it's so amazing to see how that has grown and expanded over time. Whereas at that time in your life, you were really expressing your voice and owning your power and your experience and using that to transform or whatever, that was. but over time, it's really become a healing tool for you in so many different ways. And I think it's just absolutely amazing. And so I'm very honored to be here now connecting with you and to see you going through this process over time and what's becoming of it. It's really beautiful transformation.
Well, thank you. Thank you. One thing I remember from that reading was we were talking about coaching and healing work because I'm just always been so passionate about that. And I said, well, I've been doing some one-on-one. And you're like, no. And you were like, no one-on-one. You just said, I see video, video, video. You are in front of way more people than you can be with one-on-one. And you said that's one-on-one work is the perfect path for certain people. But you said, no, you've been building up to this life and you are going to reach people in this really big, different way.
Yes.
So I still think about that all the time. And now we're doing this. And I hope it,
I just got the chills. No, I mean, so much. Like, you have grown so much since then. Your audience has grown because you started sharing your truth more and owning your voice. And your voice is healing for others, not only in the way that you share and the way that you give back, but also in your music. I mean, it's just amazing how many different avenues you have with that. It's very inspiring, to say the least.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay,
Absolutely.
enough about me. So, so I would love to hear more about how you discovered your gifts. What led you to this path that you've been on?
So, thank you for asking. I remember being like 4 or 5 years old and literally like waking up in the middle of the night and floating on top of my body. I was watching myself sleeping, like, what am I doing outside of my body? Am I going to get back in there? What's going to happen to me? And then the next thing you know, my consciousness was just taking me places. And the things I would see and the things I would experience felt too real to just be a dream. But I was so young, so it's very hard to grasp that and to communicate that. And over time, I realized that everything was relevant. All the things I was seeing, the people I was speaking to were past loved ones telling me things, and things would happen, and everything always connected. And it finally got to the point where I just couldn't hold it in anymore. So I started sharing some of those experiences with my family, certain family members that were very supportive and understanding. And it was sort of our little secret, and those who knew me well growing up always knew that I was that type of woo-woo, like on a whole nother level.
Wow.
But I definitely got a lot of backlash for it. There was many years where I felt very uncomfortable being in my own skin, didn't know what to do with it, didn't know how to navigate it. And it wasn't just having abilities like being able to know things, it was also extreme amounts of feelings of people's emotions and things, intuiting things beyond what you can control. And so you just don't know what to do about it, so it's like typically what empaths experience, right? But add to the whole empathic experience a lot of astrological traveling and remote viewing and connections with loved ones and messages that come through out of in the most random times, in the most random places, with the most random people. And it's like, how do you navigate that in your adolescent years, even in your childhood years? So thankfully, all of the traumatic experiences I've ever had, where I've had 2 near-death experiences, they call them NDEs. And it's funny, when you talked about being a skeptic in the beginning, I really related to that because I never wanted to believe in myself. I never thought it was real. I thought I was just, and I was very skeptical. I was very skeptical of myself and especially of others. But I had read a lot about, I had this fascination about those things because I knew something was calling me there. So I was still fascinated about it. I just hadn't yet owned it. And I was reading about people who've had near-death experiences. So I had known about this from a young age, and maybe it was because I had to have this like life-altering surgery at the age of 12. I had like a spinal fusion, and that was like 6 months learning how to walk all over again. I had a full like double spinal fusion. Usually when people have bad scoliosis, it's just like one part of their back, but for me, it was my whole thing, like double. Anyways, long story short, that really pushed me into the phase of natural healing, alternative healing. It really helped me connect to my guides at a young age because I was going through that type of trauma. But I was even skeptical then, and I read a lot about near-death experiences. But then when I had my own near-death experience later on, and at the age of like, I think I was about want to say 22 or 22 years old. Nothing like, I mean, that experience changed everything for me. So there was no more, I have these gifts and I don't know what to do with them, or it was no more like that was that part of my life and then everything else was my normal life. It was like that just completely took over. It just took over my whole life. So it wasn't like I had a choice. It's just, that's what I needed to survive. It's what helped me to survive. And it's what happened coming out on the other side of that. It's what created and caused that transformation. So luckily that traumatic experience helped me to expand those wings and to grow in that way. So.
Wow. Wow. Well,
Sorry, that
thank
was
you.
a very big mouthful. Always. I'm always.
No, no, no. That, I mean, it's really interesting. And I find it so fascinating that you were skeptical of your own gifts. And, you know, it makes sense as a child too. We can't fully understand a lot that's going on.
Or why? Like,
Yeah,
why
yeah.
was always the biggest thing. Like, what's the point? What am I supposed to do with this? And
Yeah.
if you do something with it, will it be accepted? Would people, I mean, most of the times things I would say would really piss people off.
Oh.
Because I was a kid. So, you know, the filter, you know,
Mm.
people ask me sometimes, they say, oh, can you go out into a crowd and just walk up to somebody and just start talking to them about, you know, their loved ones on the other side and this and that. And I'm like, I learned my lesson once a very long time ago. And I know now it's not nice to do that to people.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And yeah, I can imagine learning, you'd have to learn that the hard way. And I
Yes.
mean, I know a lot of people, even like I went to nutrition school and just from getting a bunch of knowledge, and it's so hard to not want to share it and just go, no, no, don't drink that soda.
Right.
It's horrible.
Right.
You know, and people are like, I didn't ask you, don't talk to me.
Exactly. That's one of the hardest lessons, is knowing how much is okay to share.
Yeah. Or just being like knowing that people will come to you. You know, when people come to you, you get to share all the things, but not, yeah, inserting yourself. But
Yes.
that's got to be hard.
The thing you were saying about somebody like knowing, like in the beginning, what you were talking about, the skepticism, and also about what psychics might be like, people who can just like kind of read your mind or something like that. One thing I've learned so much of is that I call that psychic invasion, right? So
Mm,
if someone doesn't give you permission, why would you go there? You know what I mean? But then
yeah.
there's times where things have come to me that I didn't ask for, where I'll pick up on things that I know I didn't ask for. So that must mean spirit or whatever is giving me permission, or somewhere in that person's energy, they're guided to connect to me in some way. But there's always that fine line, is, do you, you know, risk mentioning it? Or, but usually what happens is things always work out in a way that it will come up naturally if it is meant to be. And then I don't have to put it out there. I don't even have to try. It just always finds its way in my life, one way or another. There's no way that I could escape it. But I'm very consciously aware of space, because I'm very sensitive to energy. So I can pick up on energy and people's space. And if people are uncomfortable, I can tell. I can tell. And I just give them space, you know. It's like, you know what, it's all good. I'm not here to pick your brains. And I don't psychically invade. So I have a little barrier up that says, I'm not working right now and I don't care about your personal life. I'm
Yeah.
too busy with my kids and I don't care what's going on up there right now. So don't worry, I'm not psychically invading you. I don't have time for that.
Right. Good. Yeah, I wondered about that just for you personally. And I've heard of some other people that, you know, have kind of a deal with their guides or whoever, where it's like, when I close my eyes, my third eye
Exactly.
opens and I am ready to receive. If not, I'm doing other stuff. And, you know, and I think that too, like, I know you're married, and what it must be like to be married to someone who could, you
I should
know,
pull Matt in here right now. He would have a lot to say about that. Poor guy. It's hard.
you married me, you have to hear it.
Relationships aren't easy in the first place. In general, relationships
Yeah.
are never easy. You know, add to that someone who's super ultra sensitive and intuits things in advance. That's like, what? You must be crazy. He's learned though, like when I tell him things and I'm saying, look, this isn't me saying this. This is whatever that is, whatever's making me say this. Like I've learned to give him the warning or the heads up, like, sometimes if I'm just being reactive, he knows that's me, right? But if there's something else and there's some real information, it's really important. He's learned to listen. He trusts it. And I wouldn't be able to do what I do if he didn't trust it and if he didn't support me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm so grateful that you have had the courage to do this work because I mean, I feel like there are always going to be people who are going to think you're crazy.
Right.
And I know you're not. And I know you have so many amazing clients who you've just helped so much over the years, but there's always going to be someone who it's just not even going to allow the willingness to believe that maybe what you're doing is true, And so that takes so much courage for you to be willing to be okay with that, and to go, that's fine. I'm not here for you then. Anyway, back
Right.
to the people that need me.
It's
So
interesting that you say that because that's been a huge part of my journey and my path has been really learning to overcome adversity in ways that I want to shrink myself and I want to just I just want to make people happy around me. I don't want to make people uncomfortable. I want people to feel good. You know what I mean? But what I personally want becomes sacrificed when I do the work that I do because it's not about me and it's not about what I want. And that's the hard part. It's like, I don't want to ever, put anyone in an uncomfortable position, but I can't control that. So there's nothing I can do regardless. I can't control it. I've accepted it, and accepting it and surrendering to it more has really helped me to empower that part of myself more. And I've realized coming on the other side of that, it's not as scary as I thought it would be. So I've had so much support and so many blessings that I cannot complain. And the few times that I've really had to go through some challenges with adversities in terms of people, I guess you would call it like slandering. I've had people, in situations like that. Unfortunately, it happened to be extended family members it's really hard to go through that when you clash in terms of what you believe in and who you are as a person, when you realize that it really bothers someone so much that they take the time out of their day to be harmful. It's really sad, so I've had to learn so much about forgiveness through those experiences and so much about loving myself in those experiences that it's really helped me to grow. So I'm grateful for all of it. I'm grateful for all of it, the struggles that have pushed me to grow and all of the blessings that have come from it on the other side. It's
yeah,
all blessed up. It's all blessed.
blessed up. I like
It's all
it.
blessed up.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
all in the flow of what's meant to be. It's just surrendering it and just praying for the Most High and for the highest good for everybody,
yeah.
yourself included, right?
Right. Wow. So you had mentioned one time that you spent some time in Greece and that was a pretty powerful time for you too, stepping into your gifts. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So when I went to Greece, I was about 22 years old, 21, 22, and I was definitely on a mission to change my life. I knew that something had to change. I wasn't quite sure how or what, and I wanted to follow my soul's calling, but I always felt like I needed to do something to go find what that was. And I didn't understand what that meant, but I just knew that I wasn't doing the right thing. Like I knew I just wasn't on the right path. And it's not that it was bad or wrong. It was an amazing learning experience. It just, something was pushing me or calling me to do something else and to go somewhere else. But I never imagined what would come of it. So of course now I have family there. My father's been there most of my life. And I thought, I'm just going to go. I had this longing to go spend some time with him. I missed him and my family. And I just felt like Greece was like home to me, even though I had only been there for a certain period of time when I was a kid. And I think it had something to do with my grandmother. So my grandmother, my yaya, was a big part of my spirituality in my life and my connection to whatever you might call my spirituality. And she passed away when I was 7. So after she passed, my dad soon, later on left and went back to Greece. I felt like Greece was the closest thing I could get back to her. So I went back and lived in the village that she raised her 3 kids in this tiny little cottage home where my father grew up in the mountains of Greece. And I would have never gone there to live there had I not had this near-death experience that I had when I first got there. So I just got this horrible MRSA staph infection, and I almost died because of it. So I was stuck in the hospital for like almost 3 months for the entire summer. The infection was going up my bloodstream. There were times where they were ready to amputate my leg and were talking about the possibility of not making it if I didn't. They didn't think I understood Greek, but I did. My accent was heavily English at that time, but now, I mean, the things I understood they were saying, I don't know how I was so clear-headed. I was in so much excruciating pain. And like, as soon as the wound would heal, they would come and they would use these old school methods to clear it out because antibiotics weren't working. They would take an X-Acto knife and literally, and this is going to get gruesome here, but this is honestly what transformed my life. They cut through my leg with an X-Acto knife without any Novocaine, nothing. And I had like the size of a football MRSA staph infection traveling up my leg. So I had like double, triple wounds of MRSA. My leg was huge. So it's like gangrene, basically. It's extremely, extremely painful. And they just cut it open. They wouldn't let the wound heal because they needed to drain it, but they had to manually drain it because their doctor drains weren't working. So those little tubes they weren't working. So it was crazy, this fight for my life. And every day they had to come and like literally manually push it out. It was like the craziest thing I've ever seen. All my family was in America except for my dad and my grandfather and some of my immediate like cousins, but nobody knew what was going on with me. Not even my dad understood the intensity of what was going on with me. So it's like I had nobody. It was like in the hospital by myself during the hardest time of my life. So sometimes I would get to tell my mom what's going on, but I didn't want to scare her. I didn't want to scare anyone. And I didn't want to believe that it was really real. It was like I was in a, like, pain puts you in another place. It puts you in another state of mind and you don't want to believe that it's real. So at the same time, I had never been so clear in my mind in terms of when we say mindfulness and finding inner peace. When you're really close to something, like on that edge, that's when you can really take that opportunity to tap into an inner place inside of you that you want to call like your inner peace or your true nature. It was like I found God. It was like, oh my God, there he is, or she, or whatever it is. It's just, I had this aha moment that just hit me, and I felt this feeling inside of me, and it took me to this place that I had never been before. And it was such a peaceful feeling that I knew no matter what happened to me, everything would be okay. Wow. Every fear that had ever occurred in my life up until that point just disappeared. No more fear of death, no more fear of losing a loved one, no more fear of grieving, no more fear of failure, no more fear of abandonment. Any fear of trust, I just felt like something was alive in me, and that thing that was alive in me was going to save me, and that I would be okay and everything would be okay. So then in the end, one way or another, I healed through that experience. The pain pushed me into a space inside of myself that I found complete inner peace. And that is what I needed to find in order to learn how to navigate and use whatever gifts these were that I had my whole life that I wasn't really doing anything with. I wasn't really understanding why I had them and what I was supposed to do with them. And at that point, after that happened, I knew what I needed to do. So the voice just became loud and clear. And I went and stayed up in the mountains, and I stayed up in the village home remotely. There's no hot running water. The bathroom was disconnected from the house. There was a wood oven stove, and the TV there was like 2 channels. There's no telephone. I had to go up to a phone booth or buy a phone card. And all I did was yoga and study the Vedas and meditate. And I got really in depth with my whole channeling thing. And I tapped into what I now use as one of my greatest tools in all of the work that I do. And I know some people look at it like, oh, it's a form of divination. It's, but for me, it's a way to help. Sometimes you need a tool. So because you get so much inside of you that it's good to have a tool you can use as a conduit to help channel that energy. Otherwise it can just be so much, within yourself. So during that year that I was up there in solitude, I started talking to my guides like more directly, and I realized I understood this language. And it was interesting because it was a numerical language. So it was like numerology, sort of like a matrix just kind of started popping out at me, and it was with a regular deck of playing cards. So I was like, this is crazy. It looks like I'm talking to myself. And so when I came back down from the mountain and I became really good friends with a few girls in town, they used to let me practice on them all the time. And I was like, okay, just tell me I'm crazy, or just tell me the truth. Is this true or not true? And I would tell them what I'd be seeing. And I was always, always on the mark. And I was just like, this can't be real. But it was real and it was exciting. So it was like exploring something new, living in a new way. And it was like a rebirth of some sort.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, I had no idea about the physical traumas you've been through. That's so intense, so intense.
That was just one of them. Oh my gosh, it's been a crazy, crazy ride. The thing that pushed me to leave America and go to Greece was actually, and this is where some of your work might come up here too, but I was sexually assaulted on the side of the street in the middle of the night. I was working as a bartender in Bethesda, Maryland, right outside of DC, somewhere I never thought something like that would happen. And I was walking home and this guy just started attacking me. And he had a friend with him. They were both like big dudes, like military guys. And I had a wine key on me, and I fought him off of me until somebody called the police, and the police came and they caught him and they told me he was a rapist on the loose for like 7 years.
Oh God.
So gosh, this guy got arrested finally. But that experience like threw me out. I was just so done with everything that led me to that point. And I remember thinking like, I had a clear shot, I had a clear aim at this guy's neck. And I remember thinking like, I could totally go for that, but I didn't do it. Something stopped me from doing it. And later on, I found out that the guy had AIDS and that he was going around raping women.
Ugh.
And I'm so grateful every day that the compassion that I had to not do that to him saved me, because I didn't end up in a bath of blood.
Yeah.
I just wanted him off of me. I just wanted him off of me. I didn't try. I could have totally killed the guy, but I didn't.
Wow.
And I was a little girl, you know, I had done a lot of karate and kickboxing in my life, and I knew how to protect myself. And I knew, and it's so crazy the things that happen to us when we're kids that we don't think really like mean anything. I remember when I was a kid, and this is so crazy relevant that I'm sharing this with you right now. So gosh, forgive me for going on a tangent, but it's just popping up, so I have to. When I was a kid and I did karate, there was this girl I went to school with, and I had a best friend who was mixed Asian and African American, and he was my best friend. And I think she was a little jealous. And one day, so I had no idea. I did not understand racial inequality or anything like that. I did not understand. I didn't see people that, you know, when you're a kid, you don't even think about stuff like that. Nor do you hear about it unless you're exposed to it. And this girl was telling me to say something that I didn't know what that word meant. And she dared me to say it, and I did. And I said it loud, and I felt like the worst person in the world. I lost my friend. I mean, the people that heard me, I was like, I didn't know what it meant. They believed me. They knew she put me up to it. She was a troublemaker. Everybody knew this girl was like that. But I was in karate. So let me tell you what I did. So like the next day, I attacked her. Like I did all my karate kicks on her. I like threw her down. And so we were tumbling down this hill. The next thing you know, I got sent to detention. And then her mom shows up at my karate school, and I had to do like a minute nonstop high kicks in the air, and then like a minute of nonstop push-ups. Like they punished me with karate.
Oh my God.
For using my karate on her. And I learned a lesson that day, and you never use your strength against someone, you know? So in that moment, you know, in Bethesda on the street, I remember thinking, you know what, I have the upper hand in this moment. I could do this, but I'm not going to do it. And then later on, when I found out about who he was, I was just so grateful that I spared him and that I spared myself, and that he got the punishment that he deserved, you know? So that experience, ultimately, that's what pushed me to want to leave the country.
Yeah, I can understand that. And, you know, I didn't expect you to share that today. And that's so interesting that you did, because today I'm going to like get all emotional, but
this is crazy, but I usually don't share that much.
Yeah, well, so I just decided this week that I'm going to do like a mini series in October on sexual assault survivors and healing tools like specific for survivors. And like that's a huge part of my story
Yeah,
and my fear and recovery and everything, and a big catalyst for why I want to help people in the way I do.
exactly.
And I just heard from an organization here in Alaska that's a rape crisis center who wants to like partner with me and sponsor that whole series.
That's so
And
exciting. Yay.
yeah, so I mean, I think it's going to be so powerful, and and it's just so needed. It's so
I love
needed.
it is. And I remember one time there was a girl I was working with. She was much younger. She was just coming out of college. And she said to me, and I just want to say this, and then we can totally change the subject and go to something very lighthearted and healing and all that positive woo-woo. So she said to me, because I also picked up on something in her energy, that there's something that she had gone through. And I asked her if everything was okay. And I said, this is affecting your self-worth. And she said, yeah, this happened to me. Somebody did this to me at a party in college. And I asked her, I said, did you ever fight back? Did you do anything about it? What did you do? She said, nothing. I didn't do anything about it. And I said, you know what? There's many, many women out there who have had happen to them what happened to you. And the only difference between them and you is whether you fight back for yourself or not, right? The victim inside remains the victim until that victim empowers itself and fights for itself. Whether that means that she was pressed charges or not doesn't make a difference. It just means, did she use her voice to fight back, to advocate for herself? She just internalized it. So she got back to me like 6 months later after that resonated with her. And she told me that it completely changed her life because she realized she hadn't done anything about it for herself. Right. She wanted to get rid of that feeling so bad that she didn't even want to visit that feeling, let alone do something for herself about it. And she's like, it wasn't even about like going out and telling on the guy or pressing charges against him. It was about sharing her story, and just that sharing that empowers someone because they're releasing it. They're not holding on to it anymore. They're not carrying it around like it's their fault, like it's their baggage and their burden, Mm-hmm. It sends it back to where it came from, and it doesn't belong to us, but yet we take some sense of ownership in it because it is connected to you and your experience in your body. But we realize in those moments, we are not our bodies. We are everything else about ourselves, but that, and including that, Mm-hmm. So it can be very transformative and very empowering if we choose to see it that way, but not everyone understands how to do that. So it's really important women who have done that go out there and share that empowerment with other women,
Yeah. And I appreciate that you said, it doesn't have to be pressing charges. It doesn't have to be doing karate.
Exactly.
Because ultimately it's about you and what's happening inside of you. Mm-hmm. And so that fighting back, and I don't think it has to be, sharing your story on a grand level either. It can just be getting it out of yourself with one person you trust.
Person you need to say it to, whoever that need is for, right? Yeah. Some people need to tell the person that did it. They need to tell someone in authority. They need to tell their family, their best friend, whoever it is, whoever they feel they need, and honoring that vulnerability and kind of listening to it, responding to it in that way.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Yeah. So you mentioned the playing cards, and, I'm not sure what, like, if you want to do some kind of demonstration. Sure. And I know you have to get into a whole zone for that, so you don't have to do that right now, but something to just share more about what you do. But I know you also give like breath work classes. You have a whole, like toolkit of things you offer. But I will say real quick, you've done sessions with, I can think of 6 people I'm close to, like family members and good friends. And it's so amazing because, and these are all the people in my life where I call them and say, hey, you need to do this. And they just trust me and they say, okay. And so they talk to you and then I get a call. So like I've heard so many, what do you want to call it? Testimonials basically about your work, because of course, every time they call me after they talk to you and go, oh my God, she said, blah, blah, blah. She knew about this. And then she's talking about this, and and it's just personally, it's really fun for me. I'm like,
that's
right.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, your
So I
work has
wanted to say,
blessed. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
what was that?
I was
Sorry.
just gonna say your work has blessed a lot of people in my life, so it's just
Thank you
beautiful.
so much. I want to say, like, when I go into my zone, I don't remember everything that comes through. A lot of a lot of it I completely forget the second I get off the phone. And then when I talk to the same person again, as soon as I hear their voice, it all comes back to me. Like years will go by and I have a clear memory and memory, like as if it was just yesterday. It's sort of like a photographic memory thing where, you know how some people who have photographic memory, they see something, it clicks, they'll remember the song, they'll remember the place exactly where it was, whatever was happening, that kind of thing. Just like I think it's called remote viewing. I think there's
Mm,
actually a name for it. I think it's called remote viewing. And so, like the me that you know you're talking to now, like the real me, the normal me, I don't remember all that stuff, right? So, like when you're talking about that, I feel like it's someone else. I don't feel like I can't take ownership for it. It's so interesting because I have to move myself aside and let that energy flow through me. And if I tried to take ownership of that, I would be so afraid of effing up. I'd be so scared to do what I do. You know what I mean? Because I'm
yeah,
human. So it's like, God, how do you even? So it just so isn't even like it almost isn't even there. It's like it's there and then it's not there. It comes when it's supposed to, and then it just
right.
flutters away. It's so interesting. You
That really
can't.
is.
The point is that you can't grab it. You can't hold on to it. You have
Yeah,
to let it flow. You know what I mean? It's not just for me to hold on to for me or so I don't always remember it because it's not even about me. It's about the person that the message is for. It's for them. So I love hearing, you know, the response to you because
hmm,
when I get off the phone, I completely wash myself of whether it's validated or not, whether how it made the other person feel. And I can trust that it's healing, at least to say the least. I can trust that maybe it brings healing and that it
hmm,
helps in some way because that's me no matter what, whether I'm using a gift or not. I'm a person that wants to promote like love and healing in any connection that I make, you know? So
hmm.
that's my intention, but to hear the result is amazing. I mean, and when I go into a session, just as well as the person on the other side of it, I never know what to expect. So it's not like my psychic button is on telling me this person's gonna call you today, and then they're gonna talk, and then you're gonna say, you know, it's not. I
Right.
go into it embracing the unknown. So as I'm opening up to that space of the unknown, that's where everything is possible. And then it just pops out at me like a matrix. So I hear, I see, I feel, and then I also have my tool with the deck that I use to help kind of spread it out in front of me and reflect it with something that's tangible and something I can grasp onto. But even without that, I do automatic writing and I listen in the beginning. I jot down some notes, I share with that. And sometimes I think that the messages that are coming through in just that few minutes is really in the essence of what typically the session ends up being about. And so sometimes I think it's our past loved ones bringing in those messages, or maybe even just your spirit guides in general bringing through the message, or my own that is there to bring up whatever needs to be brought to the surface at that time for your highest good and for your healing at that time. So sometimes it's past, present, or future, you know.
Hmm.
But the whole thing with the deck, so I have my deck out and ready to share with you. It's just a regular deck of playing cards.
So funny.
When I open it, like I somehow just understand what the vibrational frequency of what these numbers are saying to me. So I can just share with you a little bit about what I'm seeing popping up. But I want you to direct, I'm going to put you on the spot here, but
Okay.
give me an intention to direct it towards sort of like, you know, when you put out the question, the answer doesn't really exist without the, you know, you got to put something out there. There
Yeah.
has to be an intention.
Right, right, right. Oh boy. Everything I'm thinking just feels so personal.
Right? We
But
can
that's
think about
okay. But that's
something
okay.
like concerning the collective or something for you or I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, this time has been so wild, and I have been doing some channeling and a lot of automatic writing and really feeling way more connected to my guides. And
Mhm.
I don't know if this is something you could look into, but I would love to like know more about my guides. And and a lot of my questions, I guess, to them are just like, am I doing the things. Like, I know I'm here for a reason. I know I'm on a mission. What am I missing anything? What do I need to do next to reach the people that need me? And obviously I'm
Okay.
doing it. Like, I'm doing things. But yeah, I just want to have a much stronger connection with all of that, because that gives me a lot of strength to help other people. Whereas if I'm just thinking about me and like, I got to do the dishes and blah, 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 it turns off me being of service to people.
Right.
So is that?
So I'm going to pull some cards for you, but one thing I wanted to say about the guides and connecting to the guides. I used to be very particular about whom I thought I was connecting to and whatnot. And I also, at that time in my life, had a very strong identity that I also related to spiritually. So like I knew myself as a yogi, or like I practiced, certain types of practices, and I had like a spiritual identity. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But over time, and those identities also related to the guides that I felt connected to, if that makes sense, right? So over time, I kind of tried to disintegrate my mind into the morph of one identity, not just specific ones. And I just call it source,
Yeah.
source, you know? So what I'm going to connect with you about is your connection to source, and how you are integrating that in your life at this time, and what messages might come through with that. So I'll look into your energy and your aura and how you're channeling that through and what it might say at this time. Okay?
Okay. And feel free to, you're welcome to share anything. I'm pretty much an open book, but I know what I'm sure a lot of other people are interested in is like, you've talked to me a lot about my love life in the past. And, not that we need to talk about that today, but just for other people to know, like, really looking into work and love and family and, all those
Yeah,
things are there.
absolutely. Okay, so I'm just going to point this down a little bit so you can see. Don't pay attention to the mess behind me. There. Okay, so can you see the deck?
Yes.
So you can see what I'm seeing, All right. So I just pick at random. Okay, so one thing this is talking about, let's see, hold on a minute. Can you see that better?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So the 3, the 7, the 2, the Queen of Hearts, King of Spades, and 2 twos. You see that?
Yes.
Okay, now I'm gonna just to kind of explain to you what it means to me and what I'm being shown here, what I'm seeing. Okay, so basically, it's talking about forgiveness. When you see the 2 twos coming in together that way, it talks about like interpersonal relationships, intimacy, and deepening those connections of intimacy through communication. And the 3 and the 7 and the 2 talk about communication coming in a more recent time frame, in the here now, bringing things together, bringing people together, bringing relationships, bonding relationships on a deeper level, intimately. Okay. But what you see down here in this energy talks about forgiveness and healing and things that come up from the past. And there's a male energy that is connected to that past. And there is trauma that he carries with him. When I say that, there is an energy there that is being communicated to you in terms of that trauma that energy is carrying with him. I want to say to you is, it's almost like, it doesn't want to make your heart become or have ever been, because of that, unavailable to the love that you deserve and the intimacy that you deserve. But because of that trauma that comes with that male energy, it almost feels like, in a way, you would feel bad about, in some terms of like giving and receiving, the giving and the receiving, the balance between that, giving that love unconditionally or receiving it unconditionally. There was some level of, in terms of worthiness there, that comes from this person's trauma that wasn't really yours to carry. But I feel that maybe you internalized it as a young girl. And over time, you've learned to empower yourself through that. And it's showing me a male that sees you in all of that empowerment, that sees you in all of that strength and all of that beauty, as you have kind of come to terms with, healed, and forgiven that male energy from your past. So it's like a reflection of the past, but the full circle has closed. And in the future, it's showing me someone that really honors, respects, and sees that in you. So I don't know if this relates in any way at all, but there's some kind of a communication around this person and this person's energy around you. Has anything come up at all?
I mean, I can definitely think of the person in my life now who's really seeing me fully and holding a lot of space for me, who I really am. And as far as the past, I mean, I could only think of my father,
That's who I was thinking. That's who I was thinking too. I
yeah,
was
and I
thinking
mean,
my father.
there's my biological father who was not around much, just a tiny bit as a toddler, or through my younger years, and he's passed away. But then my stepdad appeared when I was around 10 or 11. But both of them, we had some challenges for sure, and learned some things. Learned
This is
what
showing me
like.
definitely your father and also his mother. And also his mother. So did you know much about his mom?
So you're talking about my biological father, I think.
Biological father and biological grandmother, yes.
So my mom was really close to her. She passed away when I was a baby. So I have pictures of like her holding me.
Oh,
Her middle name is Electa, which I just think is really cool.
that is
Um,
so cool. That is the coolest name.
yeah. And I know that, yeah, I don't know her because I didn't get to, but my mom loved her so much.
Oh,
Yeah.
so it's showing me another, and I don't know if you've seen this before, but there is some other male energy in connection to your father that comes up here in the presence of your life that I don't know if did he have a son? Did you have a brother? Or was there anyone that like in your, anyone of relative to him that would have come up, a younger male energy that would have come up that you would have found out, discovered later on?
I mean, he has two brothers. Um, One I recently met, and that
For
man
the
had
first
a
time?
yes.
Okay, because this is someone that would come up as a new energy, a new
Mm-hmm.
person.
Yeah.
So it feels like it was a good connection, a positive relation. And it looks like your dad is just coming through in this connection, just kind of showing me here. Also, your grandmother on his side, that she also carries a lot of, it looks like there's some hereditary type of genetic trauma between them that's coming down. And it's showing me this like energy, that type of energy clearing. Basically it ends with you, that hereditary, whatever you want to call that chain, is like ending there. It's showing me that it's coming to an end there and a halt, and that your mom comes in as such a guiding light, and it definitely wanted to open new doors for you in your life. And it just shows me doorways around her in connection to you. So I definitely think there's some blessings that she brings forward there in terms of protection, and just having you in such a way, in such a light, seeing you and holding you in such a light that you associate with the side of yourself that connects in terms of compassion and forgiveness and releasing and healing and all those beautiful things. But there's so much talent between you all, so much talent, that you're the one that kind of holds the key to that talent, because you broke those patterns, you unleashed the genius behind it, so
Mm.
okay, let's get back to that now. It's showing me so much all at once, but
Mm.
basically about connecting to your source and your guides, your talent and your gifts, what you do to give back. To you, it might feel common, to be able to do it. Might to somebody else, though. I mean, this is your path, the path that you're on. The more you own it, the more you step into it. The feelings that you have, the calling that you have to do what you're doing, the more you listen to it, honor it, and follow through with it. And it makes all the difference in the world when you have people around you, especially your closest loved ones like your mom, or this sweet male energy that's coming in support of you right now at this time in your life. People around you who see you for all that you are, because it reflects that back to you, and it helps give you the energy, that green light that you need in your environment, in your personal space, in your intimate space, to just do it, to just like Nike, just do it. Do what you got to do what you came here to do, right?
Yeah.
It's all the resistances around us that kind of cloud our view and create obstacles and heaviness around us that sort of keeps us from stepping fully into our path and our power. When we clear up our interpersonal relationships, forgive the past, heal it, own it, end the patterns, transform within ourselves, that's when we're really unlocking the gifts that we've been blessed to have, to be able to share them with others and not have heaviness holding us back, resistances holding us back. And sometimes those resistances come from people around us, people that don't believe in us, people that aren't supportive of us. And it does not mean, okay, just keep the people around you who validate you. It just means create more room for those who are like-minded, those who do support you. And I think what was coming in at the top of your deck there had to do with someone in your personal life, directly seeing you, believing in you, and supporting you. And that is like the other half, the counterpart. That is what makes everything possible. When we're not alone and it's not just us, because if it's all just us, it's like, what's the point of it all, So when we realize that we have that support and we're not alone, and it allows us to be in the mode of receiving, accepting, allowing, and surrendering. If we think it's all coming from us, we're not really allowing that channel to come through us that needs to come through us, right? So we need to actually move ourselves aside. And when we make room for a partner in our life, especially a partner who sees us, we're not only moving ourselves aside in a way that our ego is being, tamed or exercised in such a way that it's making room for someone else and space for someone else. We gain something by giving that space. So typically as independent women or women who become empowered, especially women who become empowered through trauma, they want to hold that space for themselves because they believe that independence is what they need to be empowered, right? But then as we grow a little bit more maturely in that and surrender into that feminine space, we realize that vulnerability can be our most beautiful gift. And how do we gain access to that vulnerability? That person, that other half, that partner holds the key to that vulnerability. And when you give that person the key and it's the right person and they see you for you and they support you and they love you, there you go. You have exactly all you need to put it out there, to do you, to be you. You have the support that you need. You have that balance of giving and receiving, of doing, surrendering, of loving, and allowing yourself to be loved, right? It's not an easy one to juggle and to balance. We're so good at knowing what we want and going after what we want, but it's very hard for us to just allow ourselves to be and to just receive love, right?
Yeah.
And so when we open that up in the physical way, in an intimate way with partners that we have that connection with energetically, mentally, emotionally, all of that, we are opening up the doors for us to receive on a deeper level as well between us and the universe and source and whatever it has in our path for us. It is just as well as a relationship and an intimate relationship, and is a reflection of the love and the space that we hold in our life and the intimacy we have with our most personal relationships. It's always that.
Wow. This is so funny. This made me think of a couple years ago, we were talking about relationships, and I remember telling you, I'm like, you know what? I'm just meant to be single. Relationships are too emotional and I have a lot of work to do. I am here to help people, and that these guys are just like, no. And you said, you're like, no, I don't think that's it. And, you basically told me like, you came here to be a human, and being a human means connecting with other humans, and
exactly,
and having that affection and those connections, and how much we learn from each one. And so
but every phase of our life and relationships and different phases of our relationships revert us back to different parts of ourselves we have to heal within ourselves, things we haven't yet met within ourselves. So every connection, every person is bringing something forward in you that's like opening that flower, blooming that flower, right?
Yeah.
It's all part of this same flower that becomes you, that blooms into you. It's just a collective, it's an integrative experience of all of the different layers and parts of yourselves that become revealed through those different reflections, through those different relationships and those different, experiences, whether they're family relationships, intimate relationships, or just social, whatever you want to call it. It's all blooming something. And
Yeah.
so overall, what I wanted to say to you and what it's showing me for you is it is blooming, and it has finally bloomed. That opening, we call that Shakti, that divine flow of feminine force of nature that's innately in you. You've really let it come out. You've unleashed it. You've opened up to it. It's been knocking there, but you finally were just like, okay, yes, just come in. It took you by the storm. You let it ride out. Shakti always comes in as a storm and never just comes in like trickling water. Feminine energy flows like fire. So it is what it is. And you're an energy person too. So of course that Shakti flow is really going to open up those doors inside of you that are just going to be on fire. So what I want to say is that you're like on fire right now, and you need to keep rolling with it and keep running with it. It's like the winds have caught the sail, and the sail just is it's on its set way to its destination, right? So just picture the sunset, visualize the sunset, just think of your wind setting sail towards that sunset. You're already on the way. Everything you're doing is in alignment with your path. The more passionate you feel for something, the more time, the more energy you give it, the more you manifest it, and you're seeing those things coming to fruition in your life at this time. And I remember there was a time where, you visualized it, but you didn't quite know exactly how it was going to start to pan out. Now, all of a sudden, it's just happening, and it's going to keep happening when we become in alignment and we open up those veils, that space between where our vulnerability and our intimacy exists in our life. When that space opens up and we get really personal with the universe, that's when what's really important to us becomes a reality, right?
Wow.
Because we're not holding it in anymore. We're ready to share it and to be available to receive it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so exciting. I thank you. And yeah, I resonated a lot. It wasn't what I was expecting to
Sorry.
be hearing about. No, I
really
love it.
Stuff.
No. It's just so affirming and really interesting though, because we've done so many readings and my dad really never comes through. And I'm just okay with that. But, so for him to pop up as just, forgiveness, but then the grandmother as well, who my mom talks about a lot, and his brother, who I recently met, and I won't get into that. It was a bit bittersweet, but it was a big opportunity for me to do some more healing. And I'm absolutely obsessed with healing the generational trauma on that side of my family.
About, and I think that's where it's showing me, like, I feel like your mom's energy comes in with such a bright light that she wants to protect you from that. But the more, in a loving motherly way, but the more you've embraced your vulnerability, you're like, damn it, I don't need this protection. I need to plow through this. I need to clear this out. So
I got it. Yeah.
You got it. Exactly. So you've gone to this space inside of yourself where it's just like, I don't need to picture myself in this white bubble and pretend that everything is spiritually, like I'm protected in a bubble. And you're like, nope, shit, let's just get real with it. I'm just going to face it. I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to plow through it. And I am going to get to the other side because I know that I will, because I can, and I have, and I will.
Yeah.
So it's like this repeat over and over again. Anytime it comes up, you go through it, and it's hard sometimes, but you just get through it, and every time you come out even stronger. And so you've really taken the reins of healing generational trauma. But I want to talk a little bit more about generational trauma, because there's a lot of what I do in terms of spiritual healing, besides just doing like readings and looking into the energies around you, people around you, and how it's affecting you, or what's coming, or whatever, or past loved ones. Besides all of that, a lot of everything that I do and where it all really came from was from a space of healing. And that was ultimately always the intention and the prayer behind all of it. And I really believe that you are a healer and that you have that gift to share with the world. But as you embrace in your own healing path, you learned more about the tools that you have to share and how you share it. And I feel that your voice and the way that you give back and the way that you use your voice and what you share and how you share it is all part of your healing path, and that you're very much already doing that, and more opportunities will present themselves to you in that way. But overall, about healing and spiritual healing, there's more than just generational trauma. It's not only on the physical level and in our DNA that really affects our cell memory and our reactive responses to life. It's also our ancestral healing. So you have your generational healing, you have your ancestral healing. So beyond whatever generational trauma is there in your cell memory and passed down through your DNA, there's also your ancestral strength and your ancestral power and your ancestral gifts. And we all have that, regardless of whatever kind of a mutt we are over time, right? We all have that. And so when you tap into, when you get past that trauma phase and you get into that space that I was talking to you about, where you tap into that space in yourself, that once you unlock it, you're really opening up to those gifts and the essence of who you really are, you know, and then you can give back in that way. When you tap into that space, you are also tapping into the support and the, I want to say, the voices, not just your voice, but the voice of all those who came before you. That voice of all of your ancestors is expressed through you and lived through you. And when we harness that and we get in touch with ancestral healing, we can truly begin to see not just where we came from and understand how we got to where we are, not just in our lifetime, but the lifetimes before us. And then it takes you on a whole nother trip. Your past lives, if you believe in such a thing, it's not only your ancestral connection, your ancestral lineage in this lifetime, there's also an ancestral connection you may have cosmically in your past lives that may have no relation to this body and this lineage, right? So when you start becoming integrated, you're pulling from both your physical ancestral lineage and then overcoming that trauma that comes with that energetically. But simultaneously, you're also pulling from your spiritual soul family and your ancestral lineage there, and all the past lives that you've gained and your wisdom as a soul evolved to where you are now from many lifetimes. Mm-hmm. So the two somehow work together in a parallel way. And it's kind of hard to explain it because we think of things in linear time, right? So it's kind of hard to think of how these things could both be playing out at the same time. But I will give you an example. There's certain things that have happened in my life where I can feel like my ancestors, you know, coming in strong. I can feel them calling on me. I can feel them trying to prepare me or bless me or something, because as soon as I pray, that's immediately what I'm feeling like I'm pulling in. So there's times in my life where I can feel it, not just coming from me, but coming from them, where it's pulling me from the other side as well. And I connect to that energy. But when certain things have happened significantly, I've always had, like I said in the very beginning, like lucid dreams or astral traveling in my dreams. I have gone to places in my dreams where I've seen things playing out almost like I'm watching it as a movie, right? And I'm watching this whole experience happen like a movie, and it's like a whole nother life, a whole nother set of people, but yet some of them are familiar to me. A whole nother place, but yet it's familiar to me. And so I go from being the viewer, watching it like I'm looking down, like it's a screen, I'm watching a movie and I'm getting all caught up into the emotion of it. But yet then all of a sudden my memories start waking up and I'm like, I know this, this is this. And then the next thing you know, I'm in it and I'm becoming it. And then I play my role in it and I see where I was and I see the people that were playing out and the past life experiences. And there's been this strange story that keeps playing out over time. And in certain situations in our life where we've been hit with either a fork in a road, a decision to make, or some things sometimes feel like you're under some kind of an attack where everything seems to be going wrong at once and you have to make decisions and navigate through many obstacles, right? In those times, I've had those lucid dreams where I've gone back to that place and literally seen things playing out at that time that relate to what is happening in my current day life. And I wake up with this aha moment like, oh my gosh, this is something I have to clear in the here now that is connected to something that karmically is related to me from lifetimes I don't even know how many before. Wow. And it's just crazy because like the same themes will play out and I'll see the same kind of stories playing out in those dreams where it's taking me back to those lifetimes that I know I'm not making it up. I know that I couldn't be that. If it were true, then I would be the best movie director out there right now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if I could really come up with some awesome, like, movie scene content like that, that really relates to my life in such a way that I could never imagine the connection, you know? So it's just, anyway, it's just crazy how much our lives today are actually so affected by the cause and effect, the karma, the connections we have in our past lives. Simultaneously, we're carrying with us energy here in our body that in our blood runs deep, the connection we have to our ancestors and how alive that is in our cell memory as we breathe here now in this space. So it's so many different facets that relate to spiritual healing. And as we go through our present day experiences, we're being met with opportunities to activate the power of our free will to put ourselves in alignment with our path. And as we heal in the here now, we are simultaneously bringing closure to and healing things from the past and the future all at the same time.
Yes.
And that's kind of like how it all connects, I guess.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing.
Like, I see that with people too, like certain people I work with, I'll see how whatever is happening in the here now is what it is related to and what it's connected to in the past. So it feels like the reason why maybe that person got brought up in your cards today, it's showing me a full circle, a healing, a completion of whatever was the tone that the male energy had set originally in your life. And that energy that came from him and the lineage that he comes from, your father, in that way. And this big rainbow, it's almost like I see this rainbow of you on the other side of that bridge and the kind of male energy that you have attracted now into your life. It's a completely different representation of where you've come from and what you used to know before. It's a whole other frequency. And that transformation came from you and the fact that you chose something different. If we don't heal whatever it is we're coming from, whether it's our fault that that's where we came from or not, if we don't heal it, because that part is our responsibility, we will keep repeating in the same stories of abandonment and victimization and trauma and all those things that come with it. If we don't heal whatever it was we involuntarily believe that we had to come, that we came from. When we empower ourselves through our healing, through the power of forgiveness, regardless of if it's something we had control over or not, you can then transform what the results will be on the other side of it. It doesn't have to be the same story playing out over and over again, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the relationship's so important to talk about because a lot of us unconsciously repeat the relationships in our own life, in this one life over and over again, if we're not trying to do something
We are
different.
creatures of habit.
Yeah. And that's so fun that came up because the relationship I'm in now is this person is unlike anyone I've ever known. And I've never compared him to my father because I honestly don't think about my dad too
There's
much.
no comparison, right?
Well, right now thinking about it, it's like, because this man I'm with is the most kind-hearted person I've ever met in my life. And, you know, he's like vegan and save the planet and don't hurt animals. And I mean, just thinking about, and respect to my dad, like I don't want to talk bad about him, but I will say, you know, that the way that the guy I'm with now, like treats his plants is like with more, sorry, like love and affection and loyalty than my dad had for me, you know? So it's like, and that's a plant. And then there's his animals and then there's me and his family. And, you know, it's just like this, such a strong, like stable, truthful and high integrity, so much love, like for all of us, you know, and I've just never been near that before.
That's so beautiful. And you know what? People, like, the reflection they have towards others is a reflection of the love they have inside of themselves, you know? So someone who appreciates life, who appreciates their life, who's grateful for their life, grateful for the people they have in their life. It all comes from us first, you know? When we have that kind of love and appreciation in us, in ourselves, and our immediate surroundings, then we can give that to others. We have something to pull from and to share with others. So it's so unfortunate when you see people like, you know, with the message that your dad gave you, that he was giving you this message that you weren't enough or that he didn't have enough love to give you because he didn't know that love. He did not know that love. And it's so sad how we all do this. We go through life internalizing the love people have for us as if that's a reflection of who we are, you know?
Right.
And then when we heal that reflection, we heal that perception, and we start to see ourselves through God's eyes or source's eyes or whomever you want to call it, the universe's eyes, and we see ourselves through the eyes of unconditional love, then we can appreciate every breath we have. We can appreciate every trauma we've had, every hardship we've had, because we understand in the end, it's all for love. It's all for love. And so when you get in touch with someone who appreciates that and appreciates life and appreciates love, just in general, just to say the least, in the most simplest form, you have nothing but, you know, beautiful experiences from there, right? But of course, we're all human. And so at some point in time, the honeymoon phase is going to fade, you know, but you can hit me up for a session when that happens. I'm going to say, Blade,
Hey.
remember, good things are not easy to come by.
Yeah, of course. Nothing's perfect, but there's still, you know, even in the imperfection and in the ups and downs, like just the person that is, or the person that we are, you know, it's there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this has been so incredible, and I'm just so grateful that you spent this time to share all of this. And so I'll make sure that everyone knows where to find you. I don't really know what you offer beyond readings, or if you do, but I mean, obviously your readings are amazing. What else do you do with your clients?
So I have some clients who I work with doing like spiritual counseling on a more of a regular basis, just intuitive guidance, spiritual counseling. And then some clients that I do more so reading type sessions with whenever they feel they need a reading. And we can look into all things past, present, future, current, whatever is relevant, whatever they need the most at that time. And then some people I work more in terms of healing work with, and I'll do a series of either, it might be just depending on whatever it is they need at that time, whether it's energy healing work, smudgings, clearing, Reiki, breath work, meditation, mindfulness. A lot of it is based in meditation and mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
So breath work is a big thing that I work with, and I infuse that into the guided meditations that I do, and I personalize it to wherever I feel, you know, that person's energy is at that time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I include messages during that time, or they do like a session separately. So a lot of times I will do like half and half, or a combination of healing work, addressing whatever issues need to be cleared or worked through. And then the other half would be more of the intuitive guidance part that couples the healing work. It does work virtually. Energy healing does work virtually. I feel that whatever comes up into this little vortex that's created in the session that I'm in is coming up for healing regardless. So I'm kind of creating a portal in that time frame, and whatever comes through is already getting blessed and cleared and all that good stuff from whatever distance it's coming in. I've seen and I've heard of amazing things that have come as a result from that. It does not make a difference whether someone's in front of me or not. So I'm just putting that out there. A lot of people ask that.
Yeah, and absolutely. And all the people I'm thinking of that have had amazing experiences with you, it was all over the phone from Alaska, you know, so.
But it is great to have the opportunity to work in person because you can definitely feel the energy in your physical presence. But, you know, spiritually, energy is neither here nor there, right? So space and time is an illusion, regardless of whether, you know, we get the opportunity to work in person or not. In the near future, I will be having a lot more opportunities to do more in-person work. I'm looking forward to that once things calm down with
the new house and everything.
Yes, and COVID, of course, which is a whole nother
that
thing we're navigating through at this time in our lives. So right now, actually, the breath work and the mindfulness and all that stuff is really important during this time. So recently, I've actually been so much busier than I ever have before because people are so much more tuning into wanting to heal from the inside out. Because obviously, a crisis is going to really make us all think, what is the most we could possibly do to help ourselves and do the best we can do? And that's the one blessing that comes out of this. And so I'm always honored to be able to share a lot of the things I had learned during times where I lived in solitude and isolation, like when I was stuck in the hospital and I couldn't leave and I couldn't see people and I had to find ways to that's really where it hit home for me. So when I see people going through a lot of this with COVID right now, I just say, panicking is not going to help you. Stressing out is not going to help you. But of course, doing the best you can absolutely do to feel that you're doing, your best to stay safe is a responsibility we all owe to ourselves and each other, of course. But finding ways to take deep breaths, finding time to sit in and listen is really the basis of the quality of our life experiences, and that is also ultimately what opens us up to our innate gifts and abilities and keeps us present and available to connect with people around us in deeper ways. And we all talk about manifesting, but manifesting doesn't happen when we're not presently connecting. We can't just manifest from our computer screen, right? There's only so much we can do with that. So there is a way to stay connected, even if we can't physically see people at this time. And energy is presence. So wherever you send your mind, wherever you send your heart, you're sending your presence, even if you can't see the people in person, which is something I think we're all kind of learning to navigate at this time. And I wonder if a lot of people's like telepathy or spiritual abilities have really been like kicking up a notch these days because they're more disconnected from all the noise in society, that it helps turn on the inner noise, instead.
Yeah. I've grown just leaps and bounds spiritually in the last few months. It's amazing. Like I was not.
What solitude can do for us, and like what disconnection sometimes can do for us.
Yeah.
The power of your present awareness is the most powerful thing we have, in our aliveness, in our existence, in our being. Anyways, I could go on for days. I appreciate you having me so much. Thank you. I love every bit of this conversation.
Me too. Thank you so much. I'll make sure everyone knows where to find you, and good luck with the house building. And I just can't wait to talk to you again.
I can't wait to. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, please share that with me by leaving a review on iTunes so that I can keep the goodness coming. If you aren't already following me on social media, head over to my Instagram page at blazebellbliss for daily inspiration, or check out my website, blazebell.com. You mean the world to me, and I'm so excited to connect with you in the next episode.